We have met them all. We understand more parts of them. But now, as we get closer to the middle of this story, we must reflect upon the beginning. Thank you to our final patrons, Strawbones, Redbull4765, and a Midnight Gemlord. Now, before this breakdown / discussion and ranking of the introductions of the 4 Knights of the please leave your own ranking of the 4 Knights intros in the comment section down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, be here with that little notification so you miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do have a Patreon down below, in for as low as $1 a month to get links, exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Now, let's hop into the ranking. What's up, you guys? I'll have the pencil here, and I will admit, considering this series is called 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, obviously the 4 Knights are going to be a major factor, and they have a bunch of different things you can rank them on, from them alone to them together to what they mean for the world. But I think one of the biggest things I want to rank now, considering we are still so early in their narrative, but we have all of them now, is their introductions. I think introductions and first impressions are very, very important. I think they definitely paint a picture for the long run and how long a character is going to last, and it also can lead to either disappointment or even greater expectations later on. Look at Escanor. Escanor has one of the best introductions I've seen, period, point blank, and obviously it painted his character well, not just in the eyes of the fandom, but like everywhere. Like, Escanor is one of the few things in Seven Deadly Sins that is commonly discussed outside of the general fandom because the introduction was just that good. He was just that much of a guy. So obviously introductions matter, and we have 4 new titular characters with new introductions, so we gotta rank them. So let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into number 5. Yeah, you heard me right. Number 5. It's Sin. Like Lance in Fox form. Like, it's the worst. Mainly because, like, all we get is a panel of him. Like, in front of Percy. That's it. I only wanted to count him because technically I know people would get on my case if I didn't include him. Because technically it's Lance. But you know this is not the Lance introduction I'm ranking. You know this is far from the Lance introduction I'm going to be ranking. But I'm going to bring it up just in case. Just in case anyone wants to be slick, funny, and amusing, whatever words you want to use. I know you people. I know all of you. I know all of you. And I know y'all definitely would get on my case if I didn't bring this one up at least once. So, I brought it up. Is it good? It's a panel. It's as good as it reasonably can be. And he literally doesn't even speak. He literally looks at Percy and runs away. That's all we get. It's in chapter 2. It sucks. Alright? That's the worst introduction. Enough of this. Let's move on to number 4. I really hate to do you like this, bruh. But Percy, your introduction kind of whack. No, I'm kidding. But am I? Not really. It is literally the lowest introduction on this list. But here's why. Hear me out. In comparison to pretty much every other introduction that we have for one of our 4 Knights, there is... I don't look back on Percy's introduction in chapter 1 as a wow, cool, legendary, amazing thing. Like, I don't. I just look at it as, darn, I feel bad for that poor traumatized child. Like that's all I get out of the introduction. It's a great introduction to Percy, don't get me wrong. It tells us everything we need to know about the character, introduces us to Varghese, obviously a very important character to Percy. We get to meet Ironside here. He's obviously going to be a long-term antagonist. We get a lot out of the introduction, but like, typically when I think of like memorable introductions, I think of cool factor. I think of what makes me flash back to it. I think of like how I would do an introduction based on the good things that were done there. And don't get me wrong, there's still good things done. Like I said, it establishes all of Percy's character for the rest of the series. He's had development, somewhat, don't get me wrong, but essentially you give a person chapter 1 and they will get everything they need to know about Percy outside of like ancillary stuff and his magic, which isn't ancillary, but still you get a whole lot out of his introduction, and I think that's very, very good. Nakaba did a very solid job introducing Percy, especially considering unlike a lot of other characters, literally every other night, we had no previous connection or correlation to Percy outside of Camelot, and we barely knew anything about Camelot. So for Nakaba to take, let me see, how long was the first chapter? The first chapter wasn't really chunky though. The first chapter was a solid, juicy, and meaty 72 pages. He took 72 pages to really break Percy down, show us his lifestyle, show us the disruption of his lifestyle, show him trauma, and get him ready for the trauma that was going to come on forth. So I do think overall, Percy's introduction is very, very good at what it's supposed to do. But as an introduction that I think is cool, flashy, interesting, magically diverse, combat diverse, like, it's literally just Percy and his grandfather getting wombo comboed by their father and son, respectively. And, like, it's drawn well. Like, don't get me wrong, this is Nakaba post Seven Deadly Sins. If you look at Nakaba at the beginning of Seven Deadly Sins, you look at Nakaba now, his art style has definitely solidified and gotten a whole lot better. Like, don't get me wrong. But, like, nothing, it's weird, let me put it like this, nothing crazy happens in this introduction outside of, like, the crazy things that do happen. But none of that crazy stuff is done by Percival. Everything happens to Percival. That's the big disparity for me. Percival is living with his grandfather. Why? Because his grandfather brought him there. Percy gets assaulted by his dad. Why? Because his dad assaulted him, like, straight up dropped in. Varghese dies, not by Percy's hand, but by Ironside's hand. Percy sets out on his journey on his own. Why? Because his grandfather got opped by his own dad and he wants revenge. Like, legitimately, everything happens to Percy. Meanwhile, I'd say every other knight has an introduction that has, like, infinitely more agency. It makes them a whole lot cooler. So I kind of just got to put respect on their names for that. So don't get me wrong. It's still a solid introduction and it serves its purpose well as establishing and introducing us to Percy. Other than that, though, it's kind of like, it's all right. It's not crazy. It's not too memorable. Like, can you remember what happened in the first chapter? I'm kidding. But enough of that. Let's hop right into number 3. Okay, so the thing is, right? Part of me, like, 2 and 3 were admittedly quite debatable in my head. But I think number 3 is going to have to go to Tristan. And here's why, right? I'd say, in terms of, like, emotional investment, Tristan is one of the most emotionally invested characters I was looking for in this series. Obviously, because he's the son of Meliodas and Elizabeth. Like, no duh, I'm definitely going to care about the child of our 2 previous main protagonists in this new series, considering he's one of the 4 knights. No duh, obviously. However, I will admit, I think the introduction he has that nice extra mix of cool factor, but it also is tinged with the negative impact of his team and what they did to lead to his introduction being cool. Because essentially what happens when Tristan shows up, he sort of kind of just walks on the scene. He sort of just lives and lets live. Like, he shows up and starts flexing on Despair Percy. And of course, you know, that's really, really cool. It's good to see Tristan fight, all the stuff like that. Obviously, he pulls up at the end of a chapter. The end of the chapter is hype because you just see this guy who you remember from the last time we seen him, essentially. We didn't have Grudge of Edinburgh at this point. We didn't have any of that extra material. Last time we saw him was the end of Seven Deadly Sins, and he was a happy-go-lucky 10-year-old. He pulls up at the end of chapter 54, and he's commanding a group of people, getting them to bow down, and the chapter ends beautifully with Tristan posted up, ready to rock and roll. But, like, his whole crew assaulted the main crew we've been following, and then he proceeds to continue the assault. And I'll admit, another thing that kind of makes me not like this introduction is the cover page of chapter 55, which is literally called Tristan. He just looks too ugly, dog. Like, I hate to say it. His giraffe neck, banana yellow wearing, turquoise blue sleeve. Like, I just don't like his color design. At least that one. He definitely got better. In his drip update, he got better. But for an introduction, like, seeing his color design in comparison to seeing other characters' color design, like, let's just say it gave me flashbacks to, like, Percy's old fit. And Percy's old fit was a struggle, to say the very least. But in terms of why it's above Percy, the main reason is because he does actually have some agency here. Sure, he is following a misunderstanding, but I will admit, seeing Tristan, this, once again, a happy-go-lucky kid, watch one of his own people, literally his cousin, get his arm mummified, and then see one of his next homies about to get their throat mummified, and him immediately popping out of nowhere in base and kicking to spare Percy, who up to this point, like, top 10 strongest characters we had seen. I don't think Despair Percy's stronger than Ironside at full power. I don't think he's definitely not stronger than Arthur, Merlin, Meliodas. Like, there are a whole bunch of characters we've run into at this point in Four Knights by the time Tristan shows up. But still, this seemingly the strongest Percy we've ever seen, driven by nothing but despair, out here doing crazy things like mummifying people and going nuts. And Tristan in base comes here and just sends him skyward with a kick. I just think it's cool. I just think it's neat. Like, legitimately, I think it's very, very cool. And Tristan having this fight where we get to see where he's at. Like, not to the full degree. Obviously don't see his full power. But seeing him casually pop up with the goddess wings and start throwing out these massive spells against Despair Percy, using his abilities. Like, this was really, really cool. It has this really cool effect where you see Tristan being a beast. It's just sullied by the fact that, like, it's against a person I care about, right? Like, it's a main character fighting another main character, and I get that you kind of always want those kind of scenarios in your story because, you know, your audience is always wondering, like, ooh, what would happen if X character fought Y character, especially if they're both main characters. So I get it. It's definitely logical why it's happening, but, like, as cool as it is on a visual level, my brain can't get over the fact that this Prince of Leonis is jumping and body bagging a poor fellow 16-year-old who just watched all of his friends get attacked and perish for something that he didn't even do. Like, I'm sitting here watching Tristan just abuse Percival, like, bisect his chest and get ready to execute him. Like, dog. It's all cool. It would seriously be higher if it wasn't against Percy. Introduce some random despair being or something like that. Introduce some sort of other antagonist for Tristan to go crazy against, and I think my feelings on this would be way better. But I just feel bad. Like, I get it. Despair Percy was definitely going on a like, he was obviously going on some sort of demonic timing. Like, don't get me wrong, he was going a bit crazy. Bro was literally glitching. But even with that being the case, like, I see a victim getting victim blamed by a royal Prince of Leonis. This poor guy who just came to Leonis because he was told to, because his best homie Lancelot of the Four Knights was like, hey, come with me, we're gonna treat you nice, and he immediately gets bullied and has all his friends nearly die in front of him. I don't know. It's cool. It gets a lot of the factors that Percy's doesn't have. It has that autonomy. It has that cool factor. It has the build-up, because this is Elizabeth and Meliodas' son finally being revealed in the sequel series. It has Tristan showing off some of his powers. It shows his power dominance. Like, all of it is here. It's just that one mitigating factor that puts it below 2 and 1 for me, where it's like, I can't support your actions here, Tristan. I get it. Fully in context from Tristan's point of view, he has absolutely no idea what's going on. But this is a case where I just can't fully put myself in Tristan's shoes because I know what happened. I know that Kion was literally committing treason, and Tristan, without a shadow of a doubt, was helping him commit treason. And if he had actually succeeded here in what he was planning to do, he would have just absolutely ruined the series. So, like, really cool introduction, really cool fight. I'm glad seeing him with an ugly color design, abusing a fellow main character for no reason other than the fact that he existed and all that good stuff. I'm gonna have to give him number 3. But enough talking about Tristan. Let's move on to number 2. So the thing is, right? There is nothing like. Well, there is one thing more saucy. It's number 2 for a reason, but. There was something extravagant about Gawain's introduction, all right? There was something that just sent shivers down my spine. Like, once again, I love having, like, all my reviews out. You can go check the chapter. I will give you the chapter review to go check. Because I'm telling you, chapter 60, after we've gotten 3 of the 4 knights, we've got Tristan, we've got Lance, we've got Percival, we've gotten everyone, and now we're just all hunting, searching, looking for this final night. We are in the trenches. We are trying to do our best, and our best we can do to try and figure out where this last night is. They're being built up, hyped up by Tristan. You know, like this person, you know, I mean, they're powerful, but they're also a bit dangerous. Like, we're getting all this nice, juicy buildup, which I don't think really, like, no other night really had, like, in-story buildup outside of one more, but even then, that's not really the truth. Like, Percival had no in-story buildup to his introduction. We got introduced to him in the first chapter. Tristan had no in-story buildup. We literally just, well, I mean, I guess you could argue his platoon is the in-story buildup, but, like, no one was really, like, hyping Tristan. He just had his own platoon. So, like, it's not the same as what Gawain was getting. And even Lancelot himself didn't have real, like, hefty in-story buildup. But Gawain, she was being hyped up. She had her armor taken, or her armor left behind. We had Kion trying to commit treason again against her. Like, there was all this, like, mysterious, slowly but surely, like, build up going up around Gawain. Gawain was getting this hype that no other character was getting. And then Nakba does a beautiful thing in chapter 60, where he starts the chapter off with something literally completely different. Like, the chapter opens up with Pelgard and Percy on the cover, and we're literally following them. We get to start to see the fight between Pelgard and Percy and the rest of the Holy Knights of Leonis, and then we cut on this beautiful raining day. And obviously we had the build-up of prophecy. The four knights will gather on a raining day, so that's even more in story build-up. This is a recent prophecy that we're getting extra juicy build-up for. And we just see clunk, clunk. And we see that for these next couple panels, we do not see this person's face. We don't see Gawain's face. We see bits and pieces of her, not the entire thing. And we see Gawain spitting game. Like, I won't lie. She does go a little bit too far. Don't spit the exact same game as Gawain. Do not do it. I mean, unless y'all are, no, just don't do that. Don't do that. That's bad. Especially today. You will go to jail. So don't spit Gawain's kind of game. Once again, you can go back to the review. I was freaking and geeking how Gawain was trying to get in where she could fit in, if you know what I'm saying. And we see, as we cut away from the battle, or cut away from them, cut away from maybe Gawain, maybe this final night on this beautiful raining day, and we see Pelgard burst with magic, burst with fire, and suddenly Isolde is put in danger. And despite being a holy knight, he seemingly can't react to a barrel. And we see, with a point of a finger, boom, a massive explosion. And Isolde hits us with the, huh? What did you just do? Who are you? And we get hit with the, I am master of the sun, Gawain. And it is like, no, it just hits different. It hits different. I won't lie to you. It's just different. It's fundamentally, biologically, archetypally, rhetorically, metaphorically, and in every other fancy way. It was just different. Like, I won't lie to you. It was so sweet. And the thing is, it caps a chapter. We ended a week with that. That was beautiful. Because the thing is, Gawain gets the effect that Lancelot and Tristan ended up getting, where they just cap off a chapter. But the thing is, Gawain had more build up throughout the chapter. She had a more explosive introduction, realistically. Like, compared to her two contemporaries, the ones that are below her, Tristan sort of just walked up on the battle happening. So does Gawain here, but Gawain actually interacts. She blows up the barrel with a point of a finger. It's the finger. It's the swag of the finger, gosh darn it. She knows how to use them, and bam, blows it up. Ends the chapter with one of the most fire poses posted up like Escanor reincarnated, which pretty much is. And we see that the next chapter actually opens up with a good color design. I know, I'm sorry. I'm clowning on Nakaba's coloring in this series. But I don't know. Sometimes I think he just does too much. Like, I'm having flashbacks to the Ugly Fits. But regardless, opens up with an amazing color page, re-showing the end of the last chapter. And then we get to see the introduction does not stop there, because we see Percy versus Pelgard, and Pelgard is mollywopping, smacking up Percy. And what does Gawain do? Once again, with a point of a finger, after tapping up, walking up, boom, 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 and she flexes her aura so gosh darn hard. It sends Pelgard, the Black Knight, one of the 4 perils, flying. And we get, that's the thing, we get all the cool effects that we get of Tristan's introduction. The thing I didn't like about Percy is that Percy had very little autonomy, and he also literally wasn't fighting anything. He literally just got bullied. And the thing with Tristan's introduction is that he had the autonomy, he had the presence, he had a little bit of build-up, and he had the power behind it. He was obviously flexing. Like, there's no doubt about it. Bro was definitely showing off them gains just a little bit. But the difference is between Gawain and Percy, Gawain and Tristan, is the fact that Gawain had a proper enemy that I didn't mind getting hurt. Like, I love Pelgard. You can, if you can't tell, one of my favorite characters in the series. Probably like top 3, if not top 2 characters introduced, if not top 1. Like, legitimately, in terms of characters introduced in 4 Knights, and solely 4 Knights, because obviously I have some holdovers from the previous series that I love. The character of Pelgard is what I love a lot, but he's still also an antagonist. Like, I can like an antagonist. Percy's not an antagonist, he's our MC. So Gawain gets to come in, flex on one of Pelgard's remaining attacks, and proceed to come in and flex on Pelgard himself. And then, of course, with this being the case, this chapter, chapter 61, ends on the 4 Knights gathering. She was the final piece to gather them all together. It's just a beautiful 2-chapter sequence introduction that gives us literally everything I could want in perfect build-up, with perfect build-up, realistically, considering the last couple chapters were based around finding her. We got to see her armor, and she has this fire introduction. Sure, does she drop off just a little bit once Pelgard actually puts the pause on her? Yes. But in terms of what we're talking about here, what we're ranking here, introduction and introduction alone, Gawain was smacking. Gawain hit different. Gawain was bringing the pain to everybody while hitting the go flirt and going crazy. Like, legitimately, Gawain's introduction was almost perfect. But it wasn't perfection. You know who we gotta hop into. Let's move on to number 1. Now, a very big factor that I gave to Gawain was the fact that she did have some type of narrative buildup. We knew what her name was, we knew who brought her, we knew everything about her, we just legit didn't know where she went. That's the only thing we didn't know. And that extra factor definitely puts her above, in my eyes, in comparison to someone like Tristan, and especially Percival, because they sort of just showed up. Tristan had a platoon named after him, so that's technically narrative build-up. And Percy was literally just our first main character introduction. So obviously, his build-up can literally not exist. But if we're talking about real, proper build-up, notice how I mentioned Sin and his introduction happened in chapter 2. And we get all the way to chapter 48. That is a solid 47 chapters of Sin, the Fox. And chapter 48 opens up with the title Departing from Sin. That's what the chapter opens up as. And notably, this whole little mini arc of ours, running from the Dark Talismans, has been predicated on the fact that the Dark Talismans as a group are too dangerous. They are too girthy. They are too powerful. They have too much meat on their bones. There's fundamentally no way our group of 4, plus Sylvan, the GOAT, the strongest character in the series, could actually take them on in a 4v4. They're just too mighty, too girthy. And we see that after all this time, after all the training that Sin has done for the group, after he made them better, after he helped Donnie get his amp, he helped revitalize the group, he did all that. This group of 4 that Sin has explicitly told us, hey, we can't win the 4v4. It's just not, we can't run, we need to run the 4v1s, we need to jump them on some JJK type beat, because we cannot beat them 4v4. He's about to get jumped. Sin, the commander, as they call him, they are jumping him. The guys who could easily beat the group in a 4v4, according to Sin himself. And make matters worse, Sin gets trapped in a perfect cube with all 4 of them. That means that all of our other characters cannot help. They cannot interfere. And when we see that this character that we've been following for 47 chapters now, who's been guiding our group for 47 chapters now, who's been the pinnacle and prime member leading this journey for 47 chapters now, he is cornered. He's considered dangerous. But suddenly, he vanishes. And the next thing we see is that Elgin, the carrion eater, drops dead on the ground, bro, with 5 different arrows in him. And who's standing there but Sin? And we see that he was shot right at his pressure points. An instant shot. And Sin, suddenly he starts to vibrate. His line art, it's getting pretty darn nasty. It's getting a little bit chaotic, if you will. It seems almost apocalyptic. And he even hits us with one of the coldest bars. Obviously, it's been said many a time before, but no matter what, every time I hear it, it's a mad cold bar. If you're ready to kill, you're ready to be killed too, right? And we see Fittich, the unshakable leader, the guardian, the man who made Percival, one of the 4 Knights of the Apocalypse, quiver in his boots. Be like, you did it? How? And what does Sin ask him? You want to see it again? And we see Bergie, the mystical mage, start throwing things, magical attacks, and great variety at him. But what does the fox do? What does the fox say? Nothing. But he phases through all the attacks, his form breaking and shifting. And bam, 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 multiple arrows, and Bergie's down. And we start to see certain things. They're coming together. The doll that got shot by an arrow, those arrows, they're the exact same. Bergie on the ground? Wait a second. These ideas, they're coming together. And suddenly, Dornoch, in a rage, with his friends falling left and right, he uses impact. And everybody's sent flying. But one man isn't. Wait a second. Man, weren't they fighting a fox? And with a slap to the gut, a slap to the belly. And no, Dornoch is a man who stands at least 10 feet tall. With a palm, a whole belly pat. Bro is coughing life up. His cheeks burst with that good red juice, and his eyes nearly pop out of their sockets. And with a punch to the stomach, Dornoch gone, dead. And Fittich, wasting no time, slices straight through him, only to whiff. And we see. Someone says, "No mercy for your allies, huh? What a monster. Your attack had already taken his life. Name yourself." Whoa, is that Sin? So you're not a fox? Who are you? Lancelot. Now, I feel like some of y'all clicked on this video knowing it was inevitable, right? Like there's no way that anyone, like, I won't lie, this is like up there with Escanor in terms of proper introduction. Like, legitimately, in all of the things I've read, admittedly, I'm not the most cultured or well-read of any content creator out there. You can definitely find more experienced and more well-read content creators than I. But I've read a decent chunk myself. And in terms of overall build-up, in terms of setup, in terms of hype, in terms of delivery, in terms of establishment, Lancelot, in chapter 48 alone, has an introduction that blows a majority of characters out of the water. And the thing is, it doesn't even stop there. It doesn't even stop there. You hop into chapter 49, and he puts everyone to death. Like, legitimately. He starts bullying, styling, swaggering. Like, dude, the fact that Lancelot shows up and takes this once again, this group of 4 that could not be 4v4'd by our main cast up to this point, and proceeds to bully their leader so badly that even using their light speed haste magic, he just can't do anything, and he's forced to run. But then what does Lance do? He pulls up with the thing that solos your favorite verse, hits him with the shining road of the gods, and Lance he literally drops the coldest line in the series to end off the chapter. Like I said, no one who fights me lives to tell the tale. Bruh! It's literally perfect. It takes every single thing I want in an introduction and just dials it up to 11. Is there build-up? Yes. 47 chapters of build-up. Is there hype? Yeah. Do you hear my voice? Like, simply put, yes, there is in fact hype. Is there a battle? Yes. Against characters I could care less about. The only thing that keeps well, no, there are many things that keep Gawain at number 2 and not number 1. But still, in terms of what happens here, these are 4 characters I have no sympathy for. They are literally nothing but jobbers. And I'm so happy to see them get jobbed. I like Pelgard. I'm intrigued in Pelgard's future. I was not intrigued in the Dark Talismans, but they were a valid threat that got absolutely body bagged with Lance styling on him, and he hits him with one magical attack, hits their leader with a magical attack, and body bags him. It is a beautiful peak prime introduction, like endeavor to make your introductions like this. If you are writing a cool character that you want to be the coolest kid on the block, make it like this. Do you have to have them transformed into something else for majority of the series? No, not necessarily, but still that level of investment, hype, excitement, understanding, all of that. Once again, I keep redirecting you back to videos you may have already watched if you're really this far in. In fact, if you've gotten this far in, leave, what should I say? Leave Sin solos in the comment section down below if you got this far into the video. But with that being the case, like, beautiful introduction. It is literally peak. If I were to do like an overall introduction of all the titular characters, it would still rank unbelievably high. Maybe, like, I'm literally trying to think off the top of my head, maybe Escanor is higher, but I would actually need to like sit down and think on that, go reread Escanor's introduction again, because it was just too good. It was just so cool. It was literally legendary and beautiful, and I love everything about it. Like, there's literally nothing I would change, nothing I would do to make it better, nothing at all. It is beautiful, perfect, amazing, legendary. However, this is my list. Please tell me your guys' list in the comment section down below. Thank you to Social Quality to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure the notification bell to miss out on any videos that come to the channel. Also, I do a Patreon down below and support for as low as $1 a month for exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Thank you guys so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off.